Some people don't disrespect you because they hate you. They disrespect you because they learned they can. They interrupt you, dismiss your opinions, make jokes at your expense and call it just being honest. And after a while, something inside you starts shrinking. You begin replaying conversations in your head, thinking of what you should have said, wondering why certain people always leave you feeling small. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most disrespect doesn't begin with cruelty. It begins with permission. The moment people realize you avoid conflict at all costs, they start testing your limits. Little by little, comment by comment, boundary by boundary. And if you never push back, they assume access to you is unlimited. That's why Stoicism was never about becoming emotionless. It was about becoming unshakable. There's a difference. An emotional person reacts to everything. A weak person tolerates everything. But a grounded person knows exactly when silence is enough and exactly when distance is necessary. Because protecting your peace is not arrogance. It's self-respect. I learned this the hard way. For years, I thought being good meant always being patient, always understanding, always giving people another chance. But eventually, I noticed something. The more I ignored disrespect, the more disrespect appeared in my life. People treat you according to the standards you defend. And once you understand that, everything changes. Because the strongest people are not the loudest in the room. They're the ones who quietly decide. This is where the line ends. Principle 1, the power of the silent stare. One of the most powerful responses to disrespect is also one of the simplest. Say nothing. Just look at them. Not with anger, not with fear. Just calm, steady presence. Most disrespectful people survive on emotional reactions. They want to throw you off balance. They want your frustration, your defensiveness, your need to prove yourself. That's the game, and the silent stare refuses to play it. I remember being in a meeting years ago with someone who constantly talked over people, especially quieter people. Every sentence from him felt like a competition. At first, I tried being polite, waiting my turn, trying to speak professionally. Didn't matter. Every time I opened my mouth, he cut in again. Then, something shifted. Instead of fighting for space, I leaned back in my chair and just looked at him. No smile, no reaction, no tension, just silence. The room changed immediately. He kept talking for another few seconds, but now he sounded uncertain. People started noticing. The energy turned awkward. And, for the first time all meeting, he stopped. That moment taught me something important. Calmness unsettles people who expect emotional chaos. When you hold eye contact without reacting, you communicate something powerful. You cannot control me. That's why this works. Not because it intimidates people, but because it exposes them. Silence forces them to sit with their own behavior. And most people become uncomfortable when there's no emotional noise to hide behind. The silent stare is not aggression. It's emotional discipline. A quiet reminder that your dignity is not available for manipulation. Sometimes, the strongest response is not proving your strength. It's showing you never needed to. Principle 2. Silence is an answer. One of the hardest lessons to learn in life is this. Not every disrespect deserves a response. Some people are not looking for understanding. They're looking for access to your emotions. The moment they get you angry, defensive, or desperate to explain yourself, they win. That's why silence can become a form of power. Not weak silence. Not fearful silence. Intentional silence. There's a difference. I used to think I had to respond to everything. Every rude comment. Every passive-aggressive remark. every unnecessary criticism. I thought staying silent meant losing. But honestly, reacting was what exhausted me. Because some people will keep provoking you as long as they know you'll engage. You see this everywhere now. At work, online, even in families. Someone throws a subtle insult disguised as humor. Then they sit back and wait for your reaction like it's entertainment. And the moment you react emotionally, suddenly the conversation becomes about your reaction, not their behavior. That's why silence changes the dynamic. A while ago, someone made a sarcastic comment about one of my life decisions in front of a group of people. Old me would have immediately explained myself, tried to make them understand. Instead, I just looked at them for a second and moved on. No defense, no tension, no performance. The silence that followed made them far more uncomfortable than any argument could have. Because silence sends a message most people aren't prepared for. You no longer have access to my inner peace, and that changes everything. Stoicism teaches that your energy is valuable. Your attention is valuable. You do not owe emotional reactions to every person who demands them. Sometimes silence is not avoidance. Sometimes it is self-respect in its purest form. Principle 3. Stop explaining your life. One of the clearest signs that you're becoming emotionally stronger is when you stop feeling the need to explain every decision you make. Where you work, why you left, why you stayed, why you changed, why you said no. Some people ask questions because they care, but many ask because your choices make them uncomfortable. Your freedom reminds them of the risks they never took, and instead of understanding you, they try to pull you back into their version of what life should look like. I remember when I walked away from something stable, good income, predictable future, the kind of life people call safe. The reactions were immediate. You're making a mistake. Why would you leave that? What's your backup plan? At first, I tried explaining everything. My vision, my goals, my reasoning. But the more I explained, the more I felt myself shrinking. Because I realized something. People who truly respect you don't require a presentation to accept your decisions. So eventually, I stopped over-explaining. When people questioned my choices, I answered simply, because it felt right for me. And then I left it there. No debate, no defense, no need for approval. That kind of confidence changes people, because most people are used to seeing others justify their existence. But self-respect sounds different. It's quiet, certain, unapologetic. Your life is not a public courtroom. You do not need to argue your way into deserving your own decisions. Sometimes maturity is realizing that peace begins where over-explaining ends. Principle 4. Distance is self-respect. Not every battle needs confrontation. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is quietly step back. There are people who drain you slowly. Not always through obvious cruelty, sometimes through constant criticism, subtle disrespect, passive-aggressive comments disguised as honesty. And the dangerous part is, you get used to it. You start calling it normal. You start minimizing your own discomfort just to keep the relationship alive. I had a friend once who always found a way to make me feel smaller after every conversation. If something good happened in my life, they downplayed it. If I made a mistake, they highlighted it. Everything felt like quiet competition. But because we had history, I kept excusing it. Until one day, I noticed something. I felt more at peace when they weren't around. That realization changed me. I didn't start a fight, didn't make an announcement, didn't try to teach them a lesson. I just created distance, less access, less availability, less emotional investment. And over time, I felt lighter. That's the thing nobody tells you. Your nervous system remembers who constantly disturbs your peace. Stoicism teaches detachment not because people are worthless, but because your inner stability matters. You are not required to keep toxic energy close simply because history exists. Some relationships survive only because you keep sacrificing your boundaries to maintain them. And eventually, that cost becomes too high. Distance is not cruelty. It's recognizing that your mental peace deserves protection too. Some people lose access to you not because you hate them, but because you finally started loving yourself enough to stop tolerating what hurts you. Principle 5. Hold your head high. Disrespect often has one hidden goal: to make you doubt yourself, to make you shrink, second-guess yourself. Lower your eyes when you walk into a room. That's why one of the strongest things you can do is surprisingly simple. Hold your head high anyway. Not out of ego, not to prove something, but because your dignity should never depend on someone else's behavior. I used to know someone who constantly made little sarcastic comments around other people. Never direct enough to confront openly, just enough to slowly chip away at confidence. And for a long time, it worked. I started becoming quieter around them, more careful, more self-conscious. Then one day, I realized something uncomfortable. I had started carrying their opinion of me inside my own body. My posture changed. My energy changed. Even the way I spoke changed. That's what disrespect does when you absorb it long enough. So I made a decision. The next time I saw them, I stood differently. Shoulders back, eye contact steady, voice calm. And when the usual sarcastic comment came, I smiled lightly and kept talking like it meant nothing. Because honestly, it did mean nothing. That moment taught me something powerful. Confident people are difficult to control. When you stop shrinking for other people's comfort, the entire dynamic changes. Stoicism is not about pretending insults don't exist. It's about refusing to let them define your identity. Walk into rooms like you belong there, because you do. And remember this: the people who carry themselves with quiet confidence rarely need to demand respect. Their presence already does it for them. Deep Stoic reflection. Why disrespect hurts so much? Here's the part most people never talk about. Disrespect doesn't hurt only because of what someone said. It hurts because somewhere deep down, a part of you starts believing it. That's why one rude comment can stay in your mind for hours, sometimes days. Not because the words were powerful, but because they touched an insecurity you were already carrying. Someone calls you a failure, and suddenly you remember every mistake you've ever made. Someone dismisses your value, and now you begin questioning your entire worth. This is why Stoicism focuses so heavily on the inner world. Because if your self-worth depends entirely on external validation, you'll spend your whole life emotionally exposed to people who haven't even mastered themselves. And the truth is, most disrespect says more about the other person than it does about you. People project constantly their bitterness, their insecurity, their frustration with their own lives. A person at peace rarely feels the need to belittle others. I learned this after years of taking everything personally. Every criticism felt like proof that I wasn't enough. Every rejection felt deeply personal. But eventually, I realized something freeing. Not every opinion deserves emotional residency inside your mind. You do not have to internalize every careless word someone throws at you. That is a choice. And once you stop treating every judgment like truth, you become harder to shake. Stoicism teaches that peace begins the moment you stop handing strangers the authority to define who you are. Because people will misunderstand you, judge you, project onto you. Let them. Their voice should never become louder than your own self-respect. At some point in life, you stop trying to win every argument. You stop trying to make everyone understand you, like you, approve of you. And honestly, that's when peace finally begins. Because the truth is, some people will never respect you, no matter how kind, patient, or understanding you are. So, stop exhausting yourself trying to earn basic decency from people committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, focus on protecting your inner world. Protect your energy. Protect your standards. Protect your peace. Not with anger, not with revenge, but with calm boundaries, with silence when silence is needed, with distance when distance becomes necessary, with confidence that no longer begs for validation. That's real strength. Not reacting to every insult, not collapsing every time someone doubts you, but staying grounded in who you are, even when others fail to see it. And here's something I've learned over time. The more you respect yourself, the less disrespect you tolerate naturally. You stop chasing approval. You stop over-explaining. You stop shrinking yourself just to keep other people comfortable. And slowly, your life changes. Because people either rise to meet your standards or they lose access to you. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. So, moving forward, remember this. You are allowed to walk away from conversations that drain you. You are allowed to outgrow people who constantly disturb your peace. And you are absolutely allowed to protect your mind without apologizing for it. Because at the end of the day, peace is expensive, and not everyone deserves access to it. If this message resonated with you, make sure to subscribe for more modern Stoic wisdom and share this with someone who needs the reminder. Stay calm, stay grounded, and never abandon yourself just to keep others comfortable.